Alright, it's just the one box today. I guess before I finish opening this up, there was another non-anime DVD added that's in Brudges. Don't know what it's about. It's the movie Party Movie that the DVD collection subreddit is going to watch, I think, this Sunday. Could be mistaken. But I'm far more interested in this week's anime titles. Put those under my shoulder. Put this aside so that we can begin by looking at... Let's do this first. Interesting. So we've got Hellsing Ultimate Blu-ray DVD combo pack, but I wasn't expecting that. So let me go and grab this slightly older, or last month's Hellsing Ultimate release. If we open this up, then we'll have this, which is of course volumes 1 through 4, which I have right here from last month. So I guess I'm going to put both of them in here. And this is the old 1 through 4 release. So the newer 5 through 8 is here. And it's just one trick. There's a 9th one out, I believe. Yeah, so this goes all the way to 8. 9 is out in Japan. That came out February of this year. And 10 is supposed to come out a couple days after Christmas, it looks like. So it's not completely future-proofed, maybe. Or maybe if 9 and 10 are released on DVD Blu-ray by Funimation, they were released in a box that can hold 3 things, and then these will move over there, sort of like what I just did with Hellsing Ultimate Volumes 1 through 4. There. But there, we've got that. Next up, we've got Children Who Chase Lost Voices. I believe the normal translation mentions From Deep Below, but this doesn't. It's certainly somewhat more concise. If you're not familiar with Makoto Shinkai by name, perhaps you remember some of his other works, such as 5 centimeters per second, The Place Promised in Our Early Days, She and Her Cat, and Voices of a Distant Star. That last one being my personal favorite of the ones, but here we go. His latest works finally came out, and I've mentioned before that it was a really strange, kind of different from him, more Ghibli inspired almost. So it's the same image from disc 2. Disc 1 just has the same from the front. So I guess there's a question of what this has that the Japanese release didn't have, and I do still have that Japanese release. Though this came with a lot more stuff, partially because it was the limited edition version, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I think it came with that. Kind of hard to see it on the camera. I've got 2 Blu-ray discs. And I can't remember what extra features were on here. So we didn't quite get a spectacular release here, but we still got a release, and we've got a dub. Quite a bit of dubs there, actually. On the back here, we can see that there's a lot of Japanese text in an orange box here, which is probably the special features. But not knowing off the top of my head, not knowing how to pronounce Japanese, not able to remember, we've got a full-length commentary featuring Makoto Shinkai production staff and VA. I'm trying to remember what that would mean. My mind's going weird. We've got interviews with the staff and cast, making of Japanese promotional video, Japanese teasers, a brief interview with Makoto Shinkai, the works of Makoto Shinkai in Sentai trailers. Which actually, could be everything that's on here, just in a somewhat more compact form. Obviously not the contents of these booklets per se. But I'm not looking into too deep a detail there because I'm trying not to do too much stuff that I have to edit out of the camera. So there we go, we've got those. It would be a small release week if we didn't already have a couple of items that showed up later last week. Locke the Superman, which looks like an old title. He almost looks like he's not wearing any clothes there, but it's just a really skin-colored jumpsuit. And then we've got the Blu-ray version of Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland. So, I've been trying to, if you're not aware that this one's animated, it can kind of catch you by surprise, but it was made by it was basically spearheaded by a guy in Japan who wanted his company to do animation for both America and Japanese markets. I think at the same time. And this one actually has a Japanese dub to it. Now, granted, a lot of the Japanese dub makes it pretty obvious that there was a also primary American audience in mind. The songs in particular are still in English, and the squirrel is still the same voice actor. But it's interesting because I'm not sure if any of the DVD releases have had that before. Now, I was also surprised that this was the uncut version, and I guess it's the first time I've watched the uncut version because there were scenes I didn't recognize before. But it looked like the DVD version I had is uncut, and that one is supposedly the same content as an even older one. So I don't think it being uncut is anything new. This one does have the US cut of the opening sequence, and some other interesting things is it has the 1984 pilot film, which I've seen actually linked to on YouTube a number of times, and it's got the 1987 one, which I haven't seen. It's got a making of Little Nemo, which I didn't know what to think about. It looked more like a... I don't know how to describe that. Not quickly, anyways. And I never looked at behind-the-scenes clips. But this actually, unlike a lot of previous releases, this looks like a release, I guess, for people who are interested in collecting and the series, stuff about the series. This Blu-ray is actually pretty nice. Now, I don't know what Eastern Star's DVD release was like last year, so I can't really say whether or not it has more features compared to that, but it looks like that one doesn't have the same features, so the Blu-ray may actually be the version to pick up. Last but not least, we've got Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere, both the DVD and the Blu-ray versions. So we've got the DVDs, and then we've got the Blu-rays. Overall, this is actually a pretty good update week, I think. And it looks like that's everything, so there we go. I think I got a decent amount of watching in place. Don't exactly remember everything I might have watched, but I at least know the new things. And let's begin with I think last week I gave the impression that I wanted to finish Psychic Squad, so I did. It was pretty entertaining, you know. The first episode on the very last disc was a very, I thought, probably one of the best episodes to single out. Episode parodying Death Note, which is actually quite humorously done. a lot of the humor in that is just kind of similar to the subtle humor spread out throughout the entire series. And overall, it didn't end, but I get the impression based upon one thing and the way it ended and whatnot that it wasn't supposed to end. It's almost like it was supposed to be a series that ran much longer than it did. Sort of like Tsubasa Chronicle or Holic. And the manga covers more content than the anime does, and the anime ends where the anime ends. Maybe there won't ever be any more. It's a reality of manga being translated into anime. In this case, the series Psychic Squad pretty much covers the content of the kids going through elementary school. And I know that there's a part of the manga where they're going through middle school simply because there's an OVA episode that references that, or is based on a part of that, and I haven't seen that. It wasn't on the DVD. There was a recap episode on the DVD, one that takes place between episode 39 and 40, I think. It's narrated by Doubleface, and they're just talking about the various parts of the company. Overall, it was a fun watch. Kind of would have liked it if it had a closure to it. It didn't have to. So I guess there's a part of me that was hoping that maybe the rest of the manga would have been, or would be, translated into anime episodes, and more progress will get made there. But it's always possible it won't. Oh well. Let's see. I went to YouTube to watch the Dragon Ball Z episode of Bardock, mostly because Team 4 Star came out with a parody of it, and I have to say that it was simultaneously stupid and interesting at the same time. It's an interesting idea, if not also a stupid one at the same time. It's just... But the interesting thing is that Team 4 Star's abridged version of it is only half the length of the original one, which kind of tells you that it is at least contentful, especially compared to a lot of other Dragon Ball Z. Oh well. I can't think of much else to say about that other than the Team 4 Star parody of it was indeed quite funny. Let's see. I also watched Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere. This would be the first season of Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere. There's season 2, and the anime ends in a place where season 2 is going to happen. It's obvious it's going to happen. And, of course, I know it happened because whenever I've gone to Japanese Amazon site to look for DVDs with English subtitles, or Blu-rays with English subtitles, rather, the second season of Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere has always popped up. But I was never quite sure if I wanted to, and since Blu-ray came out here of the first season, I'll probably hold off on trying to import that. The content of that series, though, so it is kind of hard to measure in a way. There's a part of me that doesn't think that it was bad, horrible, or anything, but it also kind of felt like I don't know what I just watched. There's a confusing part of it where I think, since the theme is about redoing or reliving history, that maybe a lot of the references in the show itself are historical references to real life Japan as opposed to their own made up testament, I guess. But not knowing that stuff, not being a particularly... history being one of my weaker subjects in general, and also Japanese history probably being not much higher than history for any other country outside of my own. You know, that being the reality, if that could explain a huge chunk of trying to understand what they were doing, what they were saying, why they were saying what they were saying, and doing what they were doing. And then the other problem is that it starts out and you pretty much have to learn 2 or 3 dozen characters right off the bat. And so you lose track kind of fast, it's kind of hard to have focus. It's almost like the second half, or maybe just the first Naruto series condensed into 13 episodes, I guess, where it's not really about Naruto, even though he's clearly the main character. And Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere kind of has a main character, I think, but there was this, since there was this big smorgasbord of random characters, it's just, ugh. Now, I was surprised that there wasn't as much fan servicey stuff as I would have thought. It was definitely there, and in enough detail where it's impossible to miss, especially since our main character has a thing for groping or touching them. But other people kind of mention it, bring it up, and sometimes you see something that could be called a naughty ankle or something. But it wasn't too bad in that front, so it's not distracting in that front too much either. But it was really weird and hard to process what I saw, so I'm having trouble sorting through it all right here. And I guess I'll leave the talk about it there and just go on to the next series before I lose any more trains of thoughts. Because the next series, well, I started rewatching Soul Eater with my brother, and that was what we watched tonight. And it's kind of interesting how those can be so sharply contrasted. Now, Soul Eater, I do believe, was not completely implemented from the manga, and what was implemented is still 50-something episodes long, so it's got a slow pacing to it. But at the same time, it's better executed. It's very clean in that it knows to introduce the characters, and it knows that it has to keep things continuously interesting. So we got 9 episodes in, and the series simultaneously covered a lot of concepts, but is still easing us into understanding various characters' concepts and interactions that it's trying to build up as it goes along. And that's, kind of one of those things that makes Soul Eater pretty good, actually. It's got good pacing for what it is and what it's trying to do, and at the same time it kind of knows how it wants to introduce you to these things. It's not trying to get you to cram all of this information in at once. And I guess, see, this is why Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere is so weird, because I just thought a little bit about that and it completely derailed whatever I was thinking about. Oh well. Soul Eater. Good thing is we got to episode 9, which was the Excalibur episode. That, so my brother now knows who Excalibur is. Excellent. Funny series, funny episodes. I'm looking forward to us watching more. Other than that, I guess the only thing I can remember watching... Oh no, I did watch a couple of other things, didn't I? So, on Thursday, I did see 3 more episodes of Hellsing Ultimate. I can't help but wonder if I did something else, but I did watch those. And since I talked about Hellsing Ultimate episodes 1 to 4 last week, I think, maybe it was the week before, whatever. I don't know. Once again, it's as long as you go into it not expecting the kind of jazzy coolness from the first Hellsing series, and instead watching it as a series about monsters, it's actually pretty entertaining. So I'm looking forward to watching episodes 5 through 8. Gonna probably fire up episode 5 while I process this video, actually, and go to bed. I can't help but think that there was more, both then. Well, I guess the other thing is last night I watched the Blackjack movie. The one about super athletes, or superhuman athletes, or whatnot. It was interesting. I guess that's how I would think of putting it. Because there's something slightly off about it, but I can't think of what it is. And it's only a slight thing, so it overall remains a very enjoyable movie, in my opinion. Which is kind of why I fired it up. I couldn't remember what happened. Thought it's one of those mystery movies I kind of enjoyed. Maybe a case closed movie would have probably hit the spot slightly better though, because those kind of know how to build up appropriately, I guess, along the lines of what I was wanting. But that's all aside. So there we go. I guess that's everything I watched. Everything anime I watched. I did fire up something non-anime. Oh yeah, Lilo and Stitch. But I'm only here to talk about the anime, so there we go. Can't think of anything else to mention about upcoming weeks. There's a lot of interesting things coming out. I think next week there's a couple of releases from Aniplex, the Bakemonogatari, and maybe Garden of Sinners, although the Garden of Sinners DVD might have been pushed out. So I'll have to figure that out. But I'm not going to be ordering that until Thursday anyway, so it's all fun. And I guess it's Thanksgiving next week, isn't it? So I don't have to say anything about that. So, alright. Confusing week. Confusing week. Y'all have a nice week. A non-confusing week.